वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल HSC क्रू। इस वीडियो में हम ऑयल एंड गैस से रेलिवेंट हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी का एक मॉक इंटरव्यू कंडक्ट करेंगे। बेसिकली दो तरह के इंटरव्यूज यूजुअली आते हैं मार्केट में हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी से रेलिवेंट, स्पेसिफिकली हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी ऑफिसर के इंटरव्यूज। एक इंटरव्यू जो है वो ऑयल एंड गैस से रेलिवेंट होते हैं और दूसरे जो इंटरव्यूज हैं वो हमारे पास कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट से रेलिवेंट होते हैं। अब दोनों इंटरव्यूज में जो टॉपिक ऑफ इंटरव्यू होते हैं वो बेसिकली डिफरेंट होते हैं। जिस तरह की अगर कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट की बात होगी तो वहां पे वर्क एट हाइट एक्टिविटीज की बात होगी, वहां पे मैनुअल हैंडलिंग या मटेरियल शिफ्टिंग, मटेरियल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन की बात होगी, एक्सकवेशंस की बात होगी। इस तरह की जो कंस्ट्रक्शन एक्टिविटीज हैं उसमें डस्ट बेसिक हैजर्ड होता है, नॉइज बेसिक हैजर्ड होता है, इसी तरह से हैवी इक्विपमेंट या मशीनरी साइट के ऊपर काम कर रही होती है वो बेसिक हैजर्ड होता है। तो आपने वही टॉपिक कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट के इंटरव्यूज के लिए प्रिपेयर करने हैं। जबकि अगर हम ऑयल एंड गैस की बात करें तो टोटली हमारे पास डिफरेंट टॉपिक्स आ जाते हैं। ये टॉपिक भी इसमें इंक्लूडेड होते हैं, लेकिन उसमें मेजर टॉपिक्स जैसे कि हमारे पास ऑयल एंड गैस के अगर इंटरव्यूज हैं तो उसमें फायर का एक मेजर हैजर्ड है, H2S यानी टॉक्सिक गैसेज का मेजर हैजर्ड है। अगर शटडाउन एक्टिविटीज हैं तो उसमें कन्फाइंड स्पेस का हैजर्ड है, हमारे पास के कन्फाइंड स्पेस एंट्री करनी है तो वहां पे हमारे पास डिफरेंट हैजर्ड्स आ जाते हैं। इसी तरह से इलेक्ट्रोक्यूशन या इलेक्ट्रिकल वर्क्स आ जाते हैं, आइसोलेशन आ जाती है, लॉकआउट टैगआउट आ जाता है, ब्लाइंडिंग डी ब्लाइंडिंग एक्टिविटीज आ जाती है, क्लीनिंग में हमारे पास हाइड्रोजेटिंग की एक्टिविटी आ जाती है, फिर इसी तरह से नाइट्रोजन प्रेशर टेस्टिंग, हाइड्रो टेस्टिंग, इस तरह की मेजर एक्टिविटीज जो हैं वो इसमें इन्वॉल्व होती हैं। तो जब भी ऑयल एंड गैस के इंटरव्यू के लिए या शटडाउन के इंटरव्यू के लिए आप प्रिपरेशन कर रहे हो तो आपने इन टॉपिक्स को लाजमी एक दफा गो थ्रू कर लेना है, इनकी प्रिपरेशन लाजमी तौर पे कर लेनी है। तो चलेंगे मॉक इंटरव्यू की तरफ। ऑलरेडी हमने प्रीवियसली एक इंटरव्यू अपलोड किया हुआ है जिसने हमने इंट्रोडक्शन के बारे में बताया कि स्टार्ट में आपसे आपके इंट्रोडक्शन पूछा जाएगा एंड आफ्टर दैट फर्दर क्वेश्चन की तरफ मूव किया जाएगा। तो इसमें जो मेजर चीज है, आपने अपनी सीवी में जो चीजें मेंशन की हैं उनको अच्छे से प्रिपेयर कर लें। अगर आपने एक्सपीरियंस मेंशन किया तो आपको प्रीवियस कंपनी के बारे में पता होना चाहिए, प्रीवियस जो रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज आपने मेंशन किए उनके बारे में पता होना चाहिए, जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स के नाम आपने सीवी में मेंशन किए हैं वो आपको उनका अच्छे से आइडिया होना चाहिए। उन्हीं में से मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम जो है वो इंटरव्यू कंडक्ट किया जाता है। तो डायरेक्टली अभी हम इंट्रोडक्शन की तरफ नहीं जाएंगे, डायरेक्टली हम क्वेश्चंस को जंप थ्रू करेंगे। वीडियो को एंड तक देखना है, आपको इनरिच्ड नॉलेज मिलेगा, आपको आइडिया मिलेगा कि आपने किस तरह से क्वेश्चंस को अप्रोच करना है। एंड वन मेजर इंस्ट्रक्शन कि इंटरव्यूअर आपसे एग्जैक्ट राइट रटा रटाया आंसर एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहा होता, वो आपकी अप्रोच चेक कर रहा होता है। सो वी विल गो फॉर दैट। यूजुअली इंटरव्यूज जो है मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में होते हैं, बट इंग्लिश को हमने हवा नहीं बनाना। इंग्लिश जस्ट मोड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन है, आपने अपनी जो भी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है वो आपने कम्युनिकेट करनी है। सो वेल मिस्टर अदनान, आर यू रेडी फॉर द इंटरव्यू?
यस, आई एम रेडी।
ओके, ऑलरेडी आपका इंट्रोडक्शन है, आप एज अ हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी प्रोफेशनल काम कर रहे हैं। मिस्टर अदनान इंसारी इनका नाम है। इंट्रोडक्शन ऑलरेडी हमारे पास हमने प्रीवियस वीडियो में हमारा हुआ है पार्ट 1 में। तो डायरेक्टली वी विल गो टू द इंटरव्यू क्वेश्चंस। तो स्टार्ट में आपसे बेसिक लेवल के क्वेश्चंस पूछे जाएंगे एंड ग्रेजुअली फिर आपसे हायर लेवल के क्वेश्चंस जो है वो पूछे जाते हैं। वेल मिस्टर अदनान, व्हाट डू यू मेंट बाय सेफ्टी?
Safety is basically absence of risk of any serious personal injury due to any activity.
Right. Safety simply we can define as safety is absence of risk of serious personal injuries or ill health on the workplace from workplace activities is called basically safety. Mr. Adnan, what is risk assessment?
Risk assessment is basically in which first of all, we identify the likelihood of any hazard and we identify the existing control measures of that activity hazard. Then we conclude about the existing control which are available at site to control that risk. If there are enough to control the risk and shift the risk to the acceptable level, then is acceptable. If the risk is not acceptable, then we move towards the additional control measure to that risk into the acceptable level. So right. It's basically a specific document which is compiled by the HSC department before the start of any activity.
Right. It is simply that it's a risk assessment is a document. It is a systematic process of identifying the hazard. After that, we check who might be harmed and how. Then we check the likelihood of harm occurring and severity of the harm. Then we check the adequacy of existing control measure. If it is not suitable and sufficient, then we propose further control measures. That is the basic thing of risk assessment, and we conduct the risk assessment before start of any activity. So simple is that for any high risk non-routine activities, we conduct the risk assessment and we implement the risk assessment in order to safely complete that particular activity. Well, Mr. Adnan, what do you know about hierarchy of control?
Yes, it's basically of control which we are using for any risky activity. So first of all, elimination. If there is a possibility of eliminating the hazard, then we are using the elimination
Just
method.
give me the 5 steps of
Yes, there are
control.
5 basic steps of the hierarchy of control. First one is the elimination, second one is the substitution, third one is engineering control, fourth one is the administrative control, and fifth one is the personal protective equipment.
So simple is that when anyone asks you what is the hierarchy of control, you have to give just simple 5 steps or 5 control types. First one is elimination. You have to eliminate the hazard. Second one is substitution. We can substitute high risk activities with low risk activities. Simple is that if we are using a highly toxic chemical, we can replace it with user friendly or environmental friendly chemicals. Then there are engineering controls. Any gadget, any equipment we are using on the site are engineering controls. Then administrative controls such as rules and regulations or standards to complete the work activities. And after that, personal protective equipments as per the activity. Mr. Adnan, could you please tell me about what is work permit?
Work permit is basically a formal documented procedure, a piece of paper in which what type of activity we want to conduct, what are the hazards related to the work activity, what are the existing control measures available in that activity, what are the additional control measures required to safely execute that activity, and what are the personal protective equipments. So any risky activity, any non-routine high-risk activity, we are formulating the procedure before the start of activity and then start our work. After applying all the isolation, implementing the control
Very well.
measures.
As Mr. Adnan said, simply that if anyone asks what is the work permit is a documented piece of paper formulating safety procedures. It's a part of safe system of work. In work permit, we highlight what activity we are going to carry out, in which area this activity we are going to carry out, description of the task, time and date of the task. After that, in work permit, issuer is highlighting what are the hazards and what are the control we have to implement. Then the receiver makes sure on the site all these requirements are fulfilled while completing that particular activity. That is known as work permit system. Yes. Well, for the next question, Mr. Adnan, what do you know about MSDS?
Yes, it's basically material safety data sheet. If any manufacturer provide any tool, equipment, any
it's
chemical,
about chemicals, right?
Yes, any chemical, then it's provide the MSDS of that chemical. There are 16 points available in the MSDS, like how we use the chemical, what is the boiling point, what is the freezing point, how we store that chemical, how we use that chemical. There are basic 16 points available on MSDS, material safety data sheet.
Perfect. So as Mr. Adnan said, material safety data sheet, MSDS stands for material safety data sheet. It is a document containing the information about the chemical. Any supplier or manufacturer of the chemical is responsible for providing the MSDS if anyone is purchasing that particular chemical from the supplier or that company. In MSDS, as Mr. Adnan said, there are 16 sections providing the information, general details of the chemical, chemical formula, ingredient of the chemical, manufacturer name of the chemical, general properties or physical properties of the chemical, chemical properties are reactivity, stability properties, first aid treatment measure, firefighting treatment measure, and storage, handling, transportation. Each and everything is mentioned on that particular MSDS. It's also known as Chemical Hazard Bulletin, CHB, or Safety Data Sheet, SDS. These are the also name of Material Safety Data Sheet. Well, that's really good. Okay, well, Mr. Adnan, what do you know about LTI?
Yeah, it's abbreviation of lost time injury. If someone got injured at the workplace during his working hours and he will not continue or resume his job on the very next day or next shift or within 24 hours, then the productive time will be lost, which is called LTI, lost time injury.
Right. LTI stands for lost time injury basically. It means that if any accident happened on the site and a worker sustained any injury, so that victim will be unable to complete the existing shift and the next shift he will not come due to that particular injury. That injury is recorded as LTI, and this will also affect the company health and safety statistics, and it will be recorded. It will also turn zero any safe working hour, and safe working hour we have to resume. So we make sure that we have to arrange enough health and safety arrangements so no LTI incident happen on the site. Very well, Mr. Adnan. Okay, Well, Mr. Adnan, what do you know about LEL and UEL?
Yes, sir. LEL basically it's a minimum quantity of fuel in the presence of oxygen which can burn. It's called LDL, lower explosive limit, and UEL it's a maximum quantity of fuel in the presence of oxygen which can burn. It's called upper explosive limit.
Well, let me add further. Basically, LEL and UEL is concept for the hot work activities in oil and gas industry. We will check for the LEL. Basically, it's the presence of hydrocarbons in the air. Simple is that for LEL, it is the minimum quantity. It's first of all, it's about liquid fuel and gaseous fuel. The minimum quantity of fuel in the form of gas or in the form of vapors with the mixture of air that can ignite in the presence of ignition source is called lower explosive limit. And below lower explosive limit, if the percentage of fuel is less than lower explosive limit, it will not ignite even in the presence of ignition source, and at that time the fuel is too lean to burn. And on the other hand side, for the UEL, its upper explosive limit, the maximum quantity of fuel vapors or gaseous fuel in the mixture of air that can ignite is known as upper explosive limit, and above the upper explosive limit, the fuel is too rich to burn. So that's really good, Mr. Adnan. Moving toward the next question, what is near miss and why we go for the near miss investigation?
Yes, sir. Near miss is basically any unplanned or unwanted event which has the potential for any personal injury, property damage or loss, but don't so. Yes,
right.
It's basically a type of incident. So we investigate the near miss because current near miss is a future accident, so we investigate our near misses.
Right. Well, as Mr. Adnan said, near miss basically is a type of incident. Simply that any unwanted, uncontrolled event that has potential to cause harm but luckily not. It means that a nearby save is called near miss basically, and we investigate the near misses in order to avoid converting the near misses into the accident by finding out the root causes and taking appropriate safety actions to prevent similar near misses or similar incidents on the site. Thank you very much, Mr. Adnan, for providing the information. Now we go for the next step. What is lockout tagout?
Yes, it's means lockout tagout system. Before the start of any activity, we applying the isolation. There are three basic type of isolation: mechanical isolation, electrical isolation. For the moving equipments, for the moving tools, we are applying elastic isolation system. So after applying the isolation, we apply the lockout tagout system to prevent the
why we apply the lockout? What is the purpose of lockout?
To prevent the accidental on of any equipment or tool.
Okay, well, during the maintenance activities, after isolating the equipment, we apply a LOTO. Basically, it stands for lockout tagout. And the basic purpose of implementing LOTO is to prevent accidental startups during the maintenance or repair activities to prevent the accidents. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Adnan. Okay. Next question is what is the difference between reactive and proactive safety measures?
Yes, sir. In the active monitoring, before the accident happened, we conduct the training, we applying the isolation, we introduce the permit to work system, we conducting the risk assessment because no accident or incident occurred at site. So after the accident, we conducting the reactive monitoring to investigate the immediate causes and root causes.
Right. So there are two types of monitoring. First one is active monitoring. Before accident, we are conducting inspection, safety audit, safety tours. Basically, that is called active monitoring. And reactive monitoring is investigating the accidents in order to find out the root causes so that we can take proper actions. Well, now we will go for the fire topic. What are the fire extinguishing techniques, Mr. Adnan?
Yes, the basic fire extinguishing technique is a pass. Pull the pin, aim the base of fire. I'm
talking about fire extinguishing techniques, not about how to use the fire extinguisher.
Okay. There are three basic techniques which are using for the fire extinguishing. Their first one is a cooling, second one is a smoothing, third one is a starving.
Could you please describe what is cooling, smoothing and starving?
Yes, in the cooling, the basic function of the cooling is to cool down the fire, like we cut off the supply of the ignition. In the smoothing, we cut off the supply of the oxygen. In the starving, we control the like the flammable fuel.
Right. There are three basic techniques for extinguishing the fire. Simple is that breaking of fire triangle, that is cooling, smoothing and starving. First one is cooling, removal of heat from the fire. Smoothing, removal of oxygen or air supply from the fire. And starving is removing of the fuel from the fire. And if one component is removed from the fire triangle, fire will be extinguished. So for the next question, what is the permissible exposure limit for H2S?
Yes, for the H2S PEL, it's also in the short term is called PEL, also called long term exposure limit.
Right.
The basic limit for the H2S is called 10 ppm, 10 parts per million.
That's it. What is the short term or STEL, short term exposure limit?
For the H2S, the short term exposure limit 15 ppm for 15 minutes only.
Right. And what is the IDLH and what is the specific measurement for the IDLH of H2S?
For the H2S, IDLH basically also called immediate danger to life and health. The limit for the H2S is 100 ppm. Before 100 ppm, sometimes we are safe, but after the 100 ppm, we move towards we use safety procedure, emergency procedure, because we are on danger.
Right. As Mr. Adnan said, basically one is permissible exposure limit or workplace exposure limit, that is 10 ppm for the H2S, and similarly short-term exposure limit, that is 15 ppm, and we can expose to this limit 15 minutes for the 15 minutes and 4 times in a shift. That is short-term exposure limit. And IDLH, at that point, it's really dangerous for the human life and health, and for IDLH, the limit is 100 ppm basically. Okay. Well, Mr. Adnan, you given the answer very well. So relevant to the H2S, why H2S is a dangerous gas?
Yes, H2S is mainly the most dangerous gas in the universe, because it's also called the swamp gas. It's also called the silent killer, because its smell start on 0.13 ppm. It's very low amount, like the rotten like egg.
Okay.
After that limit, it's the kill of sense of smell.
Right?
That's why it's very
kill sense of smell. Second thing is,
yes, because it's a byproduct during the drilling activity, during the excavation. During the drilling activity, it's a 4% byproduct with the crude oil. So it's also available. It's also heavier, 19% heavier than the air. So it's move like the ground level on the pits, grounds, storage tanks. That's why it's very dangerous.
Mr. Adnan said, why H2S is a dangerous gas. So there are three main properties. First one is H2S kills the sense of smell. As the concentration of H2S increases, it kills the sense of smell. That makes it a dangerous gas. Second thing is it's 19% heavier than air, as its specific gravity is 1.18 gram per centimeter cube. So it lies in low-lying areas such as in confined spaces, in pits, in silos, in excavations. So that is a second property that makes it a dangerous gas. And third one is it reacts with the water and produce mild Hs, H2SO4. So as we inhale this particular gas, this will lead to production of acid in our lungs that will also damaging for our lungs. So these are the three basic properties that make this gas really toxic or really hazardous for the human health. Thank you very much. Mr. Adnan, could you please name some of the shutdown activities?
Yeah, there are a lot of activity which are conducting during the shutdown, like hot bolting, purging, excavation, crane lifting, confined space activity, work at height activity, sand blasting, hydrojetting. There are the different activities which are conducting at the site during the shutdown.
Okay, Mr. Adnan, thank you very much for your time and for joining us. And in this video, we tried to provide knowledge, or we tried to ask most commonly asked questions in the interview. So try to learn from this video and just go for the short handouts. You can write the questions, you can get the idea how we have to respond the questions. Simple is that, जैसा कि मैंने स्टार्ट में बताया कि इंटरव्यूअर आपसे एग्जैक्ट राइट रटे रटाए किताबी आंसर एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहा होता, आपने जस्ट अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग बतानी होती है. So that's pretty much done from this video. If you found this content helpful, do comment on the video and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.